we are moving towards the next technical talk, which is on status, market size, and scope of spices and plantation crops industry in India. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Abhijit Arun Katare, sir, Assistant Professor, FST, Shivaji University, Kolhapur. I will quickly like introduce sir to you. He did PhD in Food Science and Technology 2016 from Shivaji University, Kolhapur. His expertise in new product development, food analysis, and quality control and food safety. He has around 14 years of experience in teaching and research experience. He has published more than 11 research publications in international journal and one course handbook, four textbooks, two PMFME training module handbooks on his credits, and four manuals. His audits will include FSSC 22000, ISO 901, 9001, 2008, QMS, ISO 19011, Internal Auditor Training Program, ICS Mumbai. He has been awarded as a Young Extension Scientist Award in CCI by SKUATK Srinagar and Best Poster Presentation Award by AFSTI. Previously, he was involved in extension works like Technical Expert, EDP courses, Maharashtra Center for Entrepreneur Development, and many more. I welcome you, sir, and thank you for accepting our invitation. The session is over to you. Abhijit, sir, can you hear me?
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was not able to unmute myself, become late. So thank you, Priya, for the introduction, and thank you, Niftim Tanjavur, for inviting me for delivering a session in this particular Master Trainers Training Program. I guess the screen is also visible to you.
Sir, yes. Can you put in a slideshow mode?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir.
Is it fine now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So again, a warm good morning to everyone, every participant who is going to become a master trainer for this PMFME scheme. So basically, this is open to all domains, but today I will be just talking about the status and scopus of food processing industries, which is there in all domains of food processing industries, and eventually I will be just touching to the spices and plantation crops status. So see, the thing is, like, when we consider the food processing industry, it is an amalgamation of all those sectors. It might be a dairy, it might be a grain processing, it might be an oil seed processing and oil extraction, it might be a plantation crops and spices. So again, there is a huge scope that the India is having, and eventually for that only we are considering ourselves to become as a master trainer. And eventually, once you become a master trainer, you will be able to deliver your knowledge to the people who are much in a need. So the basic aim of this training is to build some competency in the people. Anyhow, those who have been got nominated for this particular training, like to become a master trainers, they are all well versed in their field. They are all well experienced in their respective sectors. So still just in case like many of you are like might be an assistant professor or maybe an associate or a professor at their level, or there might be some people who might be from an industry also. So anyhow, your experience in this particular area will be huge. Just a second. Okay. There was a short interruption, so sorry for that. So basically, as this session is going to be get covered all the domains of food processing industry, and at the last little bit, I will be just elaborating more on the spices. So just to give an overview about this particular session, as we are considering scope and maybe a market status and future opportunity, what we will be having in a food processing industry in India as in a country. So first we need to understand what actually a food processing is, what actually it does, and how it will be benefiting the economics of our country. So anyhow, it is a very basic, like food processing is nothing but transforming the agricultural goods or maybe the raw material what might be getting produced in the farm and converting them into a much more usable form. So when we think about converting the goods which are being get produced in a farm, we are considering its intended use. So its intended use is very much important. So it might be going to a service sector. So it might be going into a processing. It might be going directly for the consumption purpose, or maybe as a supplementary thing, or maybe can be get considered as an ingredient for a particular food processing. So when we think about a very basics of food processing, we are considering the level of processing also. So the level of processing, when we think, it might be a primary processing, might be a secondary processing and tertiary processing, and maybe it may go beyond the quaternary processing also, because we are coming up with the newer technologies and advancement in the food processing. So now we can't restrict ourselves to consider only the level of processing up to a like tertiary processing. We have to consider about that also. So basically what we consider, like what are the benefits we will be getting once we are thinking about the food processing. The foremost important benefit what we will be getting is the reduction of wastage. We need to think about uh, like as already madam has pointed it out in her session, like the huge wastage is there, and eventually when we think about the global scenario, India is leading in all the commodities, but again its usage is very poor. Its conversion into a process form is little bit lacking, and that's why what happens, whatever getting produced in the farm won't be able to be get used, and it goes into wastage. So we are going to see about the two another terminologies also, like food waste and maybe a food loss in due course of a time. So another benefit what we will be getting after food processing is improve value addition, like the commodity what you might be selling at an fresh level or maybe into a very minimalistic processing level. Now you will be able to sell that same commodity once you go into a higher level of processing with the added value to it. So basically when we think about value addition, it is not only a monetary value addition into it, it is not only increasing the sellability price or selling price of the commodity, it is much more beyond that. You are converting the aesthetics of the raw material. See, when we think about minimal processing or maybe a primary processing, we are not altering as such the natural aesthetics of any commodity. Say, suppose if I consider an example of tomato. So if you are just harvesting the tomatoes, sorting them as per their color grades or maybe as per their size and maybe the variety, and if you are making them into a sellable form, if you are just sending them for a storage or maybe a grocery shop or maybe at a particular supermarket in a fresh form, obviously it is a minimal processing. The tomatoes are going to become or remain as a tomato only. We are not changing their natural or the primary aesthetics of that particular commodity. So when we think about processing it, like when you just convert it into either a pulp, when you just convert either it into a ketchup, you are just changing the natural aesthetics of that particular commodity. So like in case of normal pulp, if you just consider or a tomato puree, where you are just simply grinding the tomatoes, you can consider still it is in a natural phase, but as such, the shape will get distracted. You are not able to see the whether it is a tomato or whether it's something has been got added over there or not. So whatever the changes are happening to that commodity should be in a positive way. Then and then only we are considering that change as a value addition change into the commodity. So tomato, if you are converting into a puree, and again if it is being get used for a further processing, obviously a value addition will be there. So in case of monetary thing, like the tomato, what you will be able to sell at a lower price in a fresh form. Now once you convert it into a ketchup, obviously you will be able to add some sort of monetary value into it. So that is another benefit. Then coming towards next benefit is a promote crop diversification. Like if you just consider the Maharashtra state, a lot of farmers, they are just only thinking about taking a crop of sugarcane. And again, year around, like almost majority of the time or maybe the season what they are having, they will be just cultivating sugarcane because they think like they will be able to earn more money only after taking that particular crop. So again, when we think about processing all those commodities or all those uh, maybe a food products or maybe any kind of farm produce, if you are just converting them into an value added products, now the farmers will be also thinking about getting diverted towards taking another crop in their field. Say suppose if there is some stigma in the mind of farmers, like if I just take this particular crop, how much I will be able to earn out of it, how much I will be able to gain an income out of this particular produce. So again, there is a still lacuna and ifs and buts in the minds of farmers. So again, and that also we need to highlight, and that also being as a master trainers, you need to make people aware about like how the crop diversification will help you to fetch a better revenue and how this crop diversification will help in maintaining the soil quality also. So I guess you all will be well versed in understanding how the crop diversification or maybe crop alteration what we are doing will enhance the soil quality. So again, that will be another environmental impact that you will be having once you are thinking about improving the food processing sector. So obviously when we think about the value addition, the raw material what was being get sold or what the earnings the farmers might be getting after selling the commodity only for a fresh consumption, now he can recommend or now he can just request from the mediator to have some more revenue, or if he is going to sell this commodity directly to the food processing industries, he will be able to get more revenue or better returns for his produce. So next it will be generating or it will be promoting more employment, obviously, and that is the policy what the Indian government is having. Once we think about uplifting the food processing industries, the employability and maybe uh, the scope of entrepreneurship and the employability will be get enhanced through this. So that's why that is another aim of this particular scheme, that is PMFME. Again, it can increase the export earning. Anyhow, now we are leading and we are just making a good phase in case of export earning in terms of foreign direct investments also, or you may be thinking about an exports of commodity. So see, when we think about a fresh commodity to be get sent to any particular overseas countries, there will be a particular risk. So once you just convert it into a process forms, into a very packaged form, eventually the acceptance level of that commodity will get enhanced in terms of export or maybe the overseas countries, because what you might have converted the product into a package form will enhance the assurance about its quality, isn't it? Say suppose if I give an example, say a mushroom. So if you are just selling a mushroom in a very uh, generalized way or in a fresh way, there will be an hurdles, like people might be thinking whether this people might be thinking whether this mushroom is safe to be get consumed or not. So once you just convert it into a processed and packaged form, you are having some stamps about it. If you are having a license or maybe a registration number over it, there will be a good confidence generated amongst the consumer, and they will be just thinking, no, this product has been got packaged and processed, means the person who might have manufactured this might have used the edible variety only for the mushroom. So again, when we think about the processed foods, you will be able to have an increased business, maybe either into a domestic level or maybe into an overseas level also. So again, you will be able to have a balanced development in a rural and urban area. So just coming to this point, I just want to give an example. Like when we think about this PMFME scheme, we are just targeting to have a formalization of micro food processing enterprises. So eventually these micro food processing enterprises will be always residing at a rural area only, or maybe at a village level. So basically what the farmers are growing, if you want to make to go for the food processing industries which are in a city level or maybe into an MLC level or on a higher processing level, you have to go for transportation. Or generally when we think about the employability of the people also, the maybe the youth in the rural area, they are just thinking like, I just have to go to the city level. I just have to get an employability at a city level only. So they will migrate from the village to the city industries. So the thing is like, once we think about holding a food processing industry at a rural level, or once we think about boosting or maybe formalizing the micro food processing industries which are at a rural level, now there won't be a problem to migrate those youth from rural to the city level, and they will be able to get the same salary or maybe the revenue what they might be getting at an MNC company. So that might be another benefit after implementing this particular scheme, and that might be one more benefit what we will be able to get after this particular scheme. So once you have this kind of an approach, and you will be able to have an developed industry at a rural level or maybe at an urban level, it's already there. So you will be able to have a balanced development of rural and urban area over there. So this is how these are some of the benefits what you will be getting, or what the society is able to get after implementation this food processing. So coming to us, another point is T4F, that I recommend everyone, you all, to just go through the PDF of this T4F, that is training for food, or a training for sustainable food system development. So this document is developed by European Union, which is encompassing all these 8 sectors. So they might be either at an ecological area, it might be an economical area, it might be a social area and nutritional areas. Even we think about training a personnel in a case of food domain, we need to touch with all these aspects of training, like all these aspects of food processing, like how this food processing is going to enhance the economical area or economical status of that particular country, how this food processing is going to benefit to the society, and how it will uplift the social area, how it is going to help in building a good healthy society by nutritional area consideration, how it is going to think about the environmental condition and its impact. So that comes under ecological area. So just to go into a little bit details about this particular areas, I'll just go quickly with the nutritional kind of an activity or the area where we are just primarily thinking about health and sustainable diet. So basically when we think about food processing, we all know that...
sorry to interrupt you, sir. Sir,
yes.
Can you move your slide? It's on the first slide only.
Yeah, it is on the same slide only. I am talking about T4F. The same
Okay,
slide
sir.
only. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. You are able to see the T4F image over there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, then it's fine. So just when we just consider about food processing, eventually we know that as the level of processing increases, the nutritional quality gets depleted. Isn't it? So the thing is, now we are coming up with a novel technology or maybe advances in a food processing where we are thinking, though we are going for a higher level of processing, we can tackle up the nutritional losses over there. So again, the product what we are manufacturing in case of a food processing industry should cater to the need of healthy and sustainable diet also. See, it should not happen like you are creating a product and it is not of any use for the society. It is not going to be get benefited to the society. So there is a huge demand for the healthy and sustainable diets or the products which are having some sort of health benefits like nutraceuticals is also coming up. Then we can think about an organic food, what we can just think about just to eradicate some sort of demerits of some pesticides and fertilizers what we might be using in a farming, and that may be getting traces in the food product. So eventually now we need to think more about the nutritional aspect where we have to tackle the chronic undernutrition. So as per the recent report of the WHO, it has been reported that we need to consider more on the undernutrition of our country. Like it has been reported that every third child in the globe is reported undernutrition from India only. So that is a huge challenge for us, how we can just cope up with the food processing sector, how we can think about converting the produce into a healthier option. That is what we are just considering. So eventually we need to think about catering a food which will be safe and nutritious to the society. Then coming towards another point, that is biodiversity, seasonality, and the organic food. So again, the biodiversity, it ensures the survival of ecosystem. See, we have a huge diversion of climates in India. We can have a humid climate, we can have a dry arid climate, we can have a rainy season, very plenty amount of rain we are having. We can have a cold phase at a particular region. So being in a diversified ecosystem or maybe an ecology, we will be able to get or we will be able to have more amount of commodities on our land. So again, when we think about the diversity, and that is what we generally consider as the base of survival or a survival of fittest, like one progeny can feed on the another one. So being a very diversified ecology what we are having, we will be able to create newer products out of those commodities. So in India, all the domains what are there or that are necessary to be get considered as a food domain, we can work in India for all those domains. We are leading in all the sectors, all the domains of food processing. Then coming towards the next point is the seasonability. Like we have a huge seasonable commodities like which can sustain the food system. Like when we think about holding a particular food processing industry, say if I am just considering a tomato, anyhow tomato we are able to get year around nowadays. So if I just consider a
Sorry
mango,
to interrupt you. Your slides are not moving.
Priya, it is on the same slide. I'm talking on all those points which are on
First
this
slide
particular.
only.
Yeah, first slide only.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So when we think about the seasonality, if again we consider an example of mango, which is a thoroughly seasonal product. So like the season what the manufacturing industries like the pulp canning industries or maybe the mango slice canning industries, they will be having a limited period of a season available for their working. So when we think about this particular scenario, there will be a problem or there might be uh, a situation what the industry might be thinking, then what I can do in the another phase where the season is not at all there. Like suppose if I consider the mango processing industry, it may work for only 4 or 5 months. So the remaining all months in the whole of the year will go into a stagnant phase. So now we need to think about what are the seasonable commodities which are available other than the mangoes in my area. And then you need to think about their usability in utilizing the facility what you are having for mango processing. So there are a lot of industries, or when we think about the big companies in case of mango processing, they are utilizing their facilities for maybe either for jam manufacturing with the multiple fruits included into it. They are just utilizing their facilities for making tutti frutti at an maybe in a coastal region, what we are having in a Maharashtra. They are doing all these activities at their level. Then coming towards another point is the organic food production. Like this is meant for the preservation of an environment and the public health. So these are the two aspects when we think about the organic food. Coming towards another scenario is the water, land, and food footprint management. Like we need to think about the carbon footprint. We need to think about the water footprint also, and we need to think again about the ecological footprint. So again, when we think carbon footprint, it is nothing but the amount of emissions of greenhouse gases, predominantly the CO2. So what the food processing we are going to hold, whether it is going to impact on the ecology or the environment or not, that we need to think. When we think about the water footprint, we need to think about how much water we are going to utilize, how much natural resources of water are going to be get depleted, what sort of management we need to think about maintaining those resources. That is what we need to consider. When we think about another factor is the ecological footprint, it is about the biological productivity of a land. Say we can't eradicate the soil as such, like we have to maintain the soil quality also. So that's why I was just focusing on the point that is crop diversification, which ultimately tackle this particular situation. So again, when we think about these all factors like an ecological factor, we need to consider what is good for planet is a good for you. So when we think about food, we generally consider the food pyramid. So along with this, now you need to consider the ecological pyramid also, or generally we call it as an environmental pyramid. So you will find these terminologies, or you will find this pyramid on Google. I request you all to go through it just to see what is recommended over there, and eventually in this T4 app document also you will be able to see this particular environmental pyramid associated over there. Then coming towards another point is food loss and food waste. So food loss is nothing but that the loss which has been got under either quantitative or qualitative means, which is generally a hidden loss. You won't be able to see it in a real-time scenario. When we think about food waste, obviously you can see it. Like if you are just creating 10 kgs of an jam, and again suppose by mistakenly there might be any contamination or maybe a risk factor or hazard associated with this commodity, we have to either discard it. So obviously it is going into waste. So when we think about the food loss and food waste, so again the food loss is always hidden. It will happen eventually prior to the processing. It may happen during the course of
Sir, can you hear me?
we call the food product as a the processed food product goes into a second life of food product. Like the commodities what we are having, the ready will be in a two life phase. Like it has in a first life. Once it goes into a processed form and it goes into a market for selling and maybe for a consumer use, we call they goes into a second life cycle. So once the product is going into a second life cycle and the losses or maybe unusability of the product, if it is happening over there, we can call it as a food waste. Then we can think about the circular economy and the resilience, where we just need to think about reducing the wastage. Then we have to think about the repairing what we have done over there, and we can think about the recycling of wastage also. So you just have to think about circulating the economy over there. What is going to be get lost in terms of economy, or maybe the loss what the industry might be going to face because of poor utilization of the waste, that you need to tackle up in this particular point. Then again, next coming towards is the industrialization or maybe a local economy, where the commodification is another scenario. say when we think about commodification, now the produce what we were selling previously as an phrase, like once you go back maybe 20 or 25 years ago, people were not using tomato purees. They were simply buying tomatoes over there, isn't it? So now in this particular recent area, we are using directly tomato puree, which is in a preserved and canned form. So this is how now the commodity what it was there, or maybe the produce what it was there in the farm, which is directly coming into a market for selling, now it has been got converted into a commodity, into a very sellable kind of product. So because of this commoditification also, you will be able to earn more profit, or the farmers are able to earn more profit. Then again, we need to think about the ethnic and inclusive food business models and the food and cultural heritage. So I guess you all might have aware about the World Food India, which was the scenario where we have thought about the tourism and the ethnic food of India, and we are just considering the Indian culture is having a lot of versatility in their food culture, or maybe the cultural heritage is there. So we just need to uplift those all traditional recipes into an industrial level. So this is how, when we think about the overview of food processing industry, by going through all these points, you will be able to understand the scope and demand is more still as we are considering it as a sunrise industry. Still the scope is there. You can just uplift the industry, and the country can be get benefited in a much more better way. So again, when we think about the benefit of food processing over in a country, it can tackle or it can address different critical issues like food security. So again, when we think about food security, what is food security? It is the amount of food what the person is getting, or it states that each and every person in the country or in a globe should get a minimum amount of safe and nutritious food for its daily and dietary requirement. So that is what we called as food security. So whenever we are thinking about offering a food to a particular person, now we need to think about what is the quality of that food. See, generally when we do an offering to a beggars or maybe to a particular person, we don't think whether that person requires that particular commodity or not. See, you might have seen some reels where people are giving food in the form of burger and pizza to the roadside kids. So that is not at all required for them to be get offered. Their need is very basic. So identifying the need is very much important in case of nowadays about food security. You can give us food, but it should be safe and nutritious and up to their dietary requirements only. So again, coming to us, another point is the food inflation. What the prices fluctuation, what we are seeing in the commodity in terms of onion or maybe in a tomato, where the price may get fluctuated, like at a particular time it might be in a rupees per kg, and again it might go beyond 100 rupees a kg also. So this kind of an fluctuation is mainly because of poor utilization of the tomato, or maybe some other conditions also. So when we think about an food processing, obviously all the commodity which is being get produced in the farmer's side will be get properly utilized, and obviously the fluctuation won't be there. Then coming towards the providing safe and nutritious food, which is the main motto of FSSAI or our government, and that's why we are having some stringent rules associated with it. So if you are having an unformalized sector, the product what they might be manufacturing will be of a poor quality, or may not be having a compliance associated with the regulatory requirement. So when we think about having a food processing with an enhanced capabilities or with an improvisation or formalization of those industries, eventually the regulatory requirement can also be get coped up. So when we think about food processing, I told you like there will be a level of food processing. So in India, what the sector we are having in case of processed food sector. See, the food processing sector is not only the industrial sector what we are having. It might be a roadside dhaba also. It might be a cafeteria also. It might be a restaurant. It might be a service industry. It might be a retailer shop also. So those all business who are coming in connection with the food commodity, we consider under a food industry only. But when we think about food processing sector, it is an industrial level production of a particular product which might be thoroughly in a processed form. So if you just want to segregate or if you just want to classify the food processing sector in India, it goes into two broad areas. One is primary processed food products and another one is value added food products. So again, if you see the level of or the percentage of this processed food and maybe a value added food product commodity or maybe the amount of the business, the primary processed food is almost 62%, and in case of value added food products it is almost lesser, like it is only 38%. So we have huge scope. So why we are having still 62% of primary processed foods? Because there is a belief in our country like what we are consuming in a processed form or maybe into an value added form won't be benefiting us good, and that's why what people do is they just rely on the fresh commodities only. So once they are buying the fresh commodities, obviously they will buy it in a huge quantity, they will not use them properly, and eventually they will be doing huge wastage over there. So again, just to tackle the situation, it can be get balanced, like at least 50-50% can be get considered in due coming course of a time. And that's why we are coming into a formalized sector of food processing, where the primary process sectors now can think about converting those primary processed food products into secondary and tertiary processing sectors also. So when we think about food processing, or there is one more concept which is called as mega food parks. So, or maybe we can call it as a centralized processing center or central processing center. So, the government has already a policy just to boost up all these kinds of facility creation at a central level where people will be able to use it for their commodities and the production. So how it works, like how the flows goes, like there will be an individual farmer, there might be a farmers group like FPOs, there might be a self-help groups, those who will be manufacturing or producing an agricultural commodities either individually or either in a group form. Then they will be just selling it to the either industry or maybe selling it into a market. That is the normal scenario. But once you have an implemented mega food park and a system, they will collect their material to the collection centers where the commodities will be get either segregated or they will be get processed minimally just to enhance their storability, and they will be made more into a transportable material, and then they will get transported to the primary processing center. So the collection center is meant for collecting the agricultural commodities. Then coming towards the PPC, it is meant for primary processing, where like the commodity what has been got grown in the farmers, and if it is just meant to be get transported to the processing unit, sometimes there will be a lack of transportation, and that is another scenario what the government is looking into. And again, anyhow, in the PMFME scheme, the transportation is also covered under the subsidized rate. So when we think about the agricultural commodities to be get transported from the farm to the processing level, there might be a time span, there might be some hurdles or hindrance which may be reducing the quality of the produce, and again there might be a chance of food loss also, and there might be a chance of food wastage also. So whatever the commodity you are having in your farm, till it reaches to the food processing level, it won't be in that exact amount what you have produced. It will be always in a reduced volume. So the thing is, when you implement an mediating processing center, that is what we call as primary processing center, you will be able to mitigate this situation. You will be able to reduce the loss which might be happening during the course of transportation. Just like how we have chilling centers, milk chilling centers intermediately Then we have collection centers, milk collection centers. Then we go for chilling centers, which we can consider as a PPC for dairy. And then that chilled milk will go to the dairy unit or maybe a milk processing unit. So again, the mega food park or CPC will be having a huge facilities for all the domains, for all those commodities processing, right from dairy, bakery, maybe and fruits and vegetable processing. So there will be a dedicated plant situated at a centralized level. Anyhow, the commodity what is being get collected can be get processed over there. Eventually, if there is anyone who wants to use that facility in a leased form or on the rented form, they can also utilize it, and they can also make a positive benefit out of it, and they can sell their commodity on their name. So that is one more benefit of holding an CPC at a centralized level. So in Maharashtra, we have an CPC or the Mega Food Park situated at Satara. So that is doing well in their level. So when we think about the processed products which is being get manufactured at an industry or maybe at a level of Mega Food Park, it will either go into an face product market, which will go directly to the domestic level in India as a retail sale, or it may go into an value-added product also, which might be meant for a domestic sale also, which might be meant for an export also, and there might be a chances of importers. Like when we think about value addition, sometimes we will be requiring some additives which are not manufactured by India. We need to have some additives from overseas also. So there will be some import inputs into your value addition, and it might go to the domestic sale or maybe for export sale or overseas sale. So again, what India is having a goodness in it for holding this food processing industry is depicted in this slide. So again, India's food processing sector is one of the largest in the world. We are considered sometimes as the food basket of the world. Eventually, in due course of a time, the government is making sure that food is being get catered by India to all those overseas countries. Anyhow, the geographical location of India is well versed. We are able to cater the food and service the food to rest of the world at a particular location. Then the Indian food industry is expanding at a CAGR of 11%, which is a huge rate when we think about the growth rate of a particular sector. Then the output is expected to reach about $535 billion by 25-26. So anyhow, the scheme what we are just considering is going to benefit over this, but achieving this particular policy. Then the food processing sector accounts for 32% of the total food industry. The sector is expected to generate 9 million jobs by 2024, and India's food sector attracts about $4.18 billion in FDI, that is foreign direct investment. So again, what the significance is there of Indian food industry? So India has a huge food diversity. Eventually, we have a huge Ayurvedic knowledge base that is also coming into a picture. When we recently faced the challenge of COVID-19 situation, the Indian food, the Indian commodities has tackled that situation very well, and the Ayurvedic knowledge what we were having has survived us a lot. So again, when we think about using this Ayurvedic knowledge what the India is having, now we'll be able to develop number of food materials out of it, maybe in terms of health supplements, maybe in terms of specialty foods, or maybe in terms of nutraceuticals. So that is one more benefit what we are having, or that is one more significance what we are having. So again, everybody is now thinking about the good life, good health and well-being. So obviously the ancient knowledge, Ayurvedic knowledge what we are having will help us over there. Then growing food processing sector, like as I told you, this food processing sector what we are having in India is considered as sunrise sector. So still the sun is in a rising phase only. So once the sun get fully risen, eventually the benefits what will be coming out of this food processing sector will be huge, and still it has a huge potential for substantial and rapid growth of this particular sector. So again, it has already attracted the FDI of about 50,000 crores in the last 9 years, then the share of processed food in Indian agriculture export has grown from 13% to 23% in the last uh, 9 years. So these all data, what I am representing on this slide, has been taken from the World Food India report only. So these are significance what that World Food India 2023 has reported in uh, the last year. Then we have a pro-industry and pro-farmer policies also got generated in this WFI activity or the program. India's food processing capacity has increased from 12 lakh tons to over 200 lakh tons. So that is a commendable approach. Then again, India has witnessed 150% growth in the exports of processed foods in the last 9 years. If you just compare the data in the last 9 years, then the significant role of women has also played a vital role in uplifting this food processing industry. See, the women are having inbuilt ability to hold a particular industry. Even though they are considered as a homemaker, eventually they are leading a particular home. Like they are considering the home as a, you can just imagine the home as an industry. They have to buy the grocery, they have to manage it, they have to process and cater it as per the need of the family members. So anyhow, the woman has an inbuilt industrialist ability or maybe entrepreneur ability. So looking in this particular scenario, the only thing is we need to boost, we need to make the woman aware about their capabilities, what they are having, and we have to bring into a picture and making them to hold a particular food processing industry. So for this, again, in this WFI program, the government has boosted this kind of an activity by providing a support to the woman in the form of Stree Shakti package, and the Mudra Yojana scheme is already there in a working phase. Then again, they have been got allotted with a sale capital of over 1 lakh subsidized projects, which has been got dispersed to promote the cottage industries and self-help groups specifically for women under WFI program. Then another point is promoting consumption of millets. So we have already celebrated the year 2023 as an international year of millet, where we are making the millet into a promising way, and we are just making that millet to come back into an processed food sector over there. So a lot of organizations and institutes have developed newer technologies for utilizing these millets. But now the thing is, we need to think about their commercialization, how well they can be get converted into an industrialized level. That is another challenge, and I'm sure like everybody will be able to overcome that challenge in due course of a time. Again, the new initiative is also going to come, like the decade of millet, or maybe by like 2023 to 2033, we are considering it as a decade of millet also. This might be a new area what we will be just focusing in due course of time. So India pitched for diversification of food basket to cater domestic and global demand in this particular international year of millet, and we are going to cater the whole of the globe for their food requirements or food demands. Then we have a huge investment opportunities and cultural exchanges also. World Food India has attracted domestic and international investors. The event what has been got organized was primarily focusing on the export opportunities, or maybe the import opportunities, or maybe for FDIs also. So eventually this World Food India program has benefited the country in a very good way. So what are the advantages what India is having just to hold a food processing industry in a better way? Like India is one of the largest food producer in the world. India has diverse agroclimatic condition and large and diverse raw material base. So when we think about agroclimatic condition, so now we are able to grow the strawberries, what previously we were considering only, or we might be getting it only from Switzerland, isn't it? So whatever commodities they are being grown in overseas in all the globe, now India is able to grow each and every commodity over there. Say suppose if I consider an example of dragon fruit, so again we are coming into like the dry land or the arid land what we are having now, we are making its utilization for dragon fruit cultivation over there. So India don't have anything, like we have everything with us what is very much necessary to create the huge raw material base and just to boost up the food processing industry. India is looking for investment in infrastructure, packaging and marketing. That's why we are just coming up with new exhibitions and new programs just to have some investments kind of an approach from different sorts of investors, maybe the Indian investors also or maybe foreign investors also. India has huge scientific and research talent pool, so we are not making the use of Indian brains at a right place. So sometimes we call it as a brain drain. Lot of knowledge or maybe the knowledgeable people or maybe the research and scientific pool what we are having goes to the overseas. So why can't we use it for the building of Indian nation? So that is what we need to now think. Then well-developed infrastructure and distribution network we have. So again, the roads are also getting built at very fastly and they are of supreme quality. So again, the transportation and distribution network is going to be get benefited out of it. Then rapid urbanization, increased literacy, changing lifestyle, increased women in our workflows. These all factors are making the food processing industries to come into a picture. Then rising per capita income is another scenario, like people are able to spend their earnings on a particular commodity, and eventually if you see the scenario, about 50% of the household expenditure is on food items only. So obviously there is a huge demand of processed food items. So again we have a strategic geographical location, proximity of India to market in Europe also and Far East and Southeast and West Asia. So we'll be able to hold a business with all the overseas countries because of having a huge strategic geographical location. So these are some of the drivers and opportunities what the India is having to hold a food processing sector. So in case of growth drives, if you just consider the increasing spending on the health and nutritious food, people are becoming more aware about their health and nutritional status. So they are spending more on such kind of commodities, and obviously the processed foods are coming into this picture. So when we think about a supplemented cake, where you will be thinking about improved protein content, where you might be thinking about increased fiber content. So these all will be only possible when you are thinking about processed form of commodities. Then increasing number of nuclear families and women workforce, then changing lifestyle, functional food, fresh or processed foods, then organized retail and private label partner penetration, then changing demographics, then rising disposal income. These are all the factors which are driving the Indian food processing sector, and eventually it will be get risen up in a coming due course of time. Then the opportunities what India is having is the processable varieties of crop. See, when we think about the food processing or the processed foods, generally people don't think about what varieties we are going to process over there. Say when suppose one person is thinking about holding in a tomato ketchup industry, they are just considering any tomato which is available nearby in their market and they are just manufacturing out of it. But they need to think what sort of variety we need to use over there so that I will be spending less as an input cost and I will be getting more in terms of profit. So we have a huge processable varieties of crop available with us. The identification of those crop is only the challenge, and then utilization it into a process farm is another opportunity. Then we can have a contract farming where the individual farmers can club together, they can create FPOs. Anyhow, the government initiative is there, like we have a national farmer food processing organization. They are supporting and benefiting the farmer produce organization, and they are making sure the FPO what is getting generated will be again get formalized. So there is huge support from the government side also to build the contract farming or maybe to build a collective efforts in case of farming in terms of building an FPO over there. Then we have any investments from a public-private partnership kind of an activity. Then we have logistic and cold chain infrastructure. Mm, then we have food safety management system, which is coping within a global standards also. And we have a machinery and packaging manufacturing industries, and we have a huge base of machineries which is required for the food processing. And we are holding mega food parks also that can be get utilized for enhancing the food processing level. So again, these are some of the challenges which are associated with the food processing industries in India. We have a supply chain issue where we have insufficient supply chains. Then we have inadequate storage and transportation facilities. We are lacking with an access of credit and financial. So this is the most important point that lot of people are thinking. See, when we ask someone to hold a business, first they will ask from where I will get the financial things, from where I can get a fund for holding this. From where I will get the financial funds for this particular holding and a business. So anyhow, when in case of this PMFME scheme also, like when we make people aware about this scheme and when we are providing a training to the beneficiaries, first they will ask how much subsidy we are going to get. So that is the mindset what people are having. They are not considering to become as an entrepreneur by their own. They are always relying on the financial means only, and that is what we are having a lacking factor. So if you are boosting the creditability and financing of the particular business, you are just thinking about giving an assurity to the people to hold a particular food processing industry. So that is another challenge what we need to tackle. Then we need to think about the significant wastage of the food produce. Generally, I consider like the ruminants are able to eat anything, but the humans are not able to eat what the ruminants are able to eat, isn't it? So when we think about creating a feed for maybe an animal or maybe as a cattle feed or anything, why we are utilizing the food material for manufacturing? Like we are using soya bean, we are using some sort of grains, maybe a corn over there, just to convert it into a feed form. Why can't we find an alternative which is not a food grade food material, but it can be get used as a feed material? So the wastage what is getting generated at an industrial level in terms of food processing, can't we consider this food processing waste for a food purpose only without sending it for the feeding purpose? So we need to balance a lot with the food wastage what we are having, whether to use the amount for the feeding to the animals or whether we have to use it for the human purpose. That is what we need to consider. So again, we have a difficulty for small and medium sized enterprises. So that's why we have come up with this scheme like PMFME just to formalize and build their strength over there. Then again, we have an increasing vulnerability to the climate changes. So we are not sure about when the rain will come, what the season will get changed. So again, because of this fluctuating behavior of the environment and maybe the climate, we are facing a lot of troubles. So if you see the recent scenario, the India recently suspended exports of non-basmati rice varieties after heavy monsoon rainfall damage. So these are all unavoidable challenges, like one can't be able to avoid them. So how to tackle with this situation? Now what to do with this damaged non-basmati rice? Can we utilize it? Can we convert it into some usable form or not? So all these things what comes into a picture, and then we find a particular solution for thing has to be get analyzed prior to its happening. So another scenario is the crop losses, like the growing population, the changing climatic pattern, and the socio-economic disparities are making this to happen. The crop losses are going to happen over there. So again, the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare has reported that India has lost about 5.04 million hectares of crop area due to some of the natural calamities like cyclonic storms, flash floods, then landslides and cloudburst in 2021. So these all natural calamities may happen eventually in any area at a particular course of a time. So whatever we are growing has to be get utilized very efficiently and very fastly. So that's why we are just diverting all those food commodities into a processed food sector. Then high post-harvest losses. See, the harvesting to the consumption is what we consider as a food chain. So again, India has lost about 5 to 13% of its fruits and vegetables. So I'm just talking here about the loss. I'm not talking about the waste. So again, 5.13% is a loss. And again, when we think about the scenario of fruits and vegetables, the wastage will be almost 30 to 40%. So 30 to 40%, or we consider 30 plus again 13%, that is almost 43% will be a huge loss. The commodity what has been got produced in the farm level will reach for the processing level, or will get converted into a process form only in 60% only. So 40% is going into either loss or wastage. Again, in case of crops, if you just consider in terms of oil seeds and spices, 3 to 7% of crops goes into a loss. But if you just think about in case of grain production, we have increased the level of its utilization over by 23%. And again, the post-harvest losses in terms of grain processing has been got reduced, because the majority of times when we think about building an entrepreneurship, lot of people focus on bakery industry at a priority level. So the grain-based industries, the food processing industries which are based on the grain commodity, as they are getting into a picture more and more, the post-harvest losses and eventually the usability of those grains are becoming more. So this is how we need to think about the high post-harvest losses in all those domains. Then we need to think about the limited technology adoption. That is the challenge what we are facing, as we are not having access to the credit and finance. We are not able to shift towards the improved technology adoption in terms of food processing. Still, what the newer and advanced technology of food processing are coming into a picture, they are all in a nascent phase. They are all at a laboratory and maybe an R&D level only. There are very limited manufacturing industries which are working on advanced methodology. So that is again another challenge, how we can tackle up with the advanced methodology and technology usage. So when we consider the survey which has been got conducted by a government, which we call as annual survey of industries, we can find out like the survey happens for the food processing units, how many units are there, how many employment is there, what is the output of that particular industry, what is the investment in fixed capital. So these all things will get analyzed in this particular survey. So as per the survey, it has been got reported that the food processing industry is holding more for unincorporated or maybe unregistered industries only, and that is what we called as unorganized industry. So that is the situation what we need to tackle up now, and we have to make the industries into formalized sector. So now coming towards the domains of food processing industry, the foremost important domain is fruits and vegetable. Then where we are just thinking about the horticultural crops, which are grown on 12 million hectares in India, out of which 7% of country's total cropped area, it is mentioned over there. Then the annual horticulture production is about 100 million metric tons, and again it is over 18% of India's gross agricultural output. So again, India holds second position in the production of fruits and vegetables, but still the usability is poor. We need to think about most out of this, and we can just think about processing these fruits and vegetables to convert into a processed form. So in the picture you can see some of the possible food products that we will be able to create out of fruits and vegetables. Then the second domain or the sector is milk and milk product. Generally we can call it as a dairy sector also. So again, India is the largest livestock population in terms of cows and buffaloes, and again we are able to have a huge amount of raw material base for a milk processing or milk product processing. India is the world's largest milk producer with about 72 million tons annually. So this report is for the year of 2022. It might be had got updated recently. Then the consumption of liquid milk accounts for 46% of its total production. We are consuming a lot of milk and utilizing it in a fresh form, and the rest of the milk goes and converted into milk product. So again, grain processing. So in case of grain processing, we call them as food grains, where the production is about 225 million tons a year, where we are considering the major grains like rice, jowar, bajra, maize, and now recently the millets are also coming into a picture. So wheat is the major cereal, the corn is the major cereal, and rice is the major cereal what the Indian farmers are having the production of. So we can think about the pulses and legumes also in case of grain processing. So again, the most operations of these industries are rural based, and the utilization is more in terms of rural only, because the rural people are generally they are farmers, so they are making all their food needs based on what they are producing in their farm. So majority of the grains gets consumed in the rural area. Their consumption is more in case of rural areas. Then the share of 40%, which is the biggest component of the food sector. Again, the primary processing shares 96% of the total volume. Still, there is a chance to hold a food processing for value-added products from grain processing. We are just simply thinking about converting the grains into flour, and the rest of the things we make it to the consumer side. They will either make it and use it for making dokra, they will either use it for making idli or anything what up to they want to have out of it. We are not considering holding an industry for these grain based products. Only we have already thought for bakery, which is only the most in terms of value added products. So again, in case of Indian basmati rice, which has an international market because of its aesthetics, natural aesthetics, and superiority amongst all those grains. Then we have an beverage industries, that too again an alcoholic beverage industries. Then we have meat and poultry industries, where we are thinking about the flesh of the animal. So again, India has world's largest livestock population, accounting about 50% of buffalo, the global buffalo. Then again, 1/6 of the goat population is with India only. So again, there is a possibility to hold the meat and poultry industry also. Then fisheries and seafood. India is the 7th largest marine landing base, and we are having a huge coastal line, and we can just have a huge aquaculture over there, and eventually we can just think about uplifting the fisheries and seafood area also. So coming towards the sector specific thing like the spices and condiments, anyhow what I am just going to deal with the spices and condiments, you will be able to implement it for the rest of the domains also. So just to give a touch more to the spices and condiments, few of the slides will be there. So when we think about spices and condiments, they are differing in them. So when we think spices, they are meant to be get used during the preparation of any particular dish. And when we think about condiments, majority of them we are using after the dish has been got prepared. It might be getting used for seasoning it, it might be getting used for decorating it, or maybe used for enhancing the particular dish. So there are a lot of varieties of spices and condiments. So a fruit, leaf, seed, root, bark, berry, bud, flower, or vegetable substances principally used as a flavoring, coloring, and preserving agent in a food preparation is called as spices. Whereas in case of condiments, a spice, sauce, or spice mixture that is mainly added to contribute a specific flavor to improve its flavor or to supplement the dish after its preparation is called as condiments. So again, coming towards the spices and condiment sectors in India, there are about 109 spices grown in different parts of the world, out of which almost 96 to 100 species are grown in India only. So the data what has been reported in this slide is showing 63, but now it has been got updated to 96, about 90 to 96. Then commercially grown spices are limited. The Indian spices market size has reached to about 1,60,676 crore in 2022, and it is expected to grow in the year of 2028 by a CAGR of 10.9. Then Indian spices and seasoning market was about 10.8 billion US dollars in 2022, and again it is expected to grow significantly at a rate of 13%. The India is the largest producer, consumer and exporter of spices with 10.87 million tons of production in 2021-22. The annual growth rate of area and production of spices in India is estimated to be 3.6 and 5.6 respectively. The total area under spice cultivation is about 32.20 lakhs hectares with a productivity of with the production of 37.65 lakhs tons. So again, if we consider the major contributors in Indian spice sector, we have Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and northeastern states which are contributing in spices and condiments production at a major level. So again, these are some of the major spices which are cultivated in India like black pepper, cardamom, chili, ginger and turmeric. You can just find the states also who are dominating this business. So in case of black pepper, which is known as king of spices, and again it is a dollar earning crop of our country, and the major competitor for India is Vietnam. So again Kerala is the leading, and it is having a position of contributing about 96% of the total production of black pepper. Then we have a cardamom, which is renowned as the queen of spices, an important commodity of international market, where we have a monopoly in the area under cultivation and production by Guatemala. So the Guatemala is the competitor for us in terms of cardamom. Then we have in India is a major producer of exporter of chili, and again the ginger is also contributing much towards the export earning, where we have in Kerala, Sikkim, Assam, West Bengal, Tripura and Arunachal Pradesh in terms of ginger. India is also a major producer of turmeric, and again the major turmeric producing states are Assam, Maharashtra, Orissa, Meghalaya, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. We have Tamil Nadu also coming into this particular scenario. Seed spices cultivated in India. So again we have coriander seeds, we can have cumin seeds, fennel seeds, fenugreek seeds and saffron. So again when we think about saffron, it's the costliest spices of the world and its cultivation is confined to the Kashmir Valley only. But if you just see the Indian share in this particular saffron production, it is only about 10% to the global supply. So still it is, though we are considering it is grown more in case of Kashmir Valley, still we have a huge scope and opportunity to increase this particular production. So again, this is the report that you can just find out on the internet also, or I'll be sharing this presentation to you. You can just go through this data, or you can just think about the updated data for this particular scenario, which is reflecting the states with their area of spice production and their production of particular spices in that particular area. So again, if you just see like the estimated one, the star is representing the estimated production. So still the report has to come out and for the 2023-24. So you can just get updated on this data for the spice production. So now you can think about the same scenario for other domains also. You need to think about which is the major state for a particular commodity, and that's why we were focusing previously in case of PMFME as ODOP approach, like the major state which is producing a particular commodity in a major amount has to think about its processing at a primary level. So that was the main motto in case of ODOP. But anyhow, now it has been got shifted to all. So eventually you might have heard about top to total, like previously the government was focusing on the utilization of tomato, onion and potato. but now there is a shift from top to total. Now all the commodities are being get considered by government. So again, you can think about the spices wise area and production. So again, what we have seen in the previous slide was the total spices and condiment production. Now, if you just want to see about the scenario associated with the specific spices, you can just think about it. So by getting a knowledge of this particular data, one will be able to understand under which commodity I have to work more, or under which commodity I can just hold my particular business. So once you get to know, I will be able to have a more raw material base in my particular area for this particular spices. And again, if you just see the scenario, the production statistics of that particular commodity for last 5 years, you will be able to forecast your future task, like whether the graph is going more, whether the commodities production is increasing or it is depleting. So if it is depleting, obviously you have to think like whether I will be able to get the raw material in due course of a time for running my industry or not. If it is going more, obviously you can think of holding that particular business, because you will be able to get a raw material for business in future also. So that is the main advantage after going through the statistics. So in your training, you have to make sure, like once you are training to the DLTs, you are making them aware about this statistical data also, how to use the statistical data, how it is going to benefit for the entrepreneurs or maybe the organizations to hold their business and just to forecast their business statistics in coming area. So again, we can think about the item-wise export data for the particular commodity. You can see through it. So what are the export opportunities for a commodity, that also you will be able to understand through this particular data. So coming towards another point is the plantation crops. So again, in case of important plantation crops, we are having oil yielding crops, which covers coconut, oil palm and palmyra. Then we have masticatory plantation crops, which is called as areca nut or betel vine. Then we have a beverage crops, that is tea, coffee and coca. These are dominating one only. Then the nut crops like cashew nut. Then we have industrial crops like rubber and sugarcane. So again, this is the production statistics in terms of production volume. So again, if you see, areca nut is increasing, but in case of coconut, it is little bit slightly stagnant phase. Again, if in case of cashew, if you see, it is thoroughly stagnant only. So anyhow, that stagnancy has now been got changed, like the fresh area of 3,800 hectares has been brought under the cashew new plantation program of states of government Gujarat, Karnataka, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. So the area is going to be get utilized for the cashew production, and obviously now the amount of produce what we will be getting will be more in due course of time. So again, you can think about the area associated with the plantation crops and the production output out of that particular area, you can see through this slide. Then what is the market size for the Indian food industry? So Indian food and grocery market in the world is 6th largest, and again with a retail contribution of 70% of its sale. It is accounting for 32% of country's total market. Again, largest industry in India and is ranked 5th in terms of production, consumption, export and expected to grow. And again, it contributes 8.80 and 8.39% of GVA and is in case of manufacturing and agriculture respectively. Again, it has increased up to 13% of India's export, or it shares in the 13% of India's export. And again, if you just think about the total industrial investment, about 6% has been got risen. The Indian government food market is currently valued at 1.3 billion US dollar, and again it is growing at a CAGR of 20%. So again, if you see the amount or the percentage of CAGR, it is 20. It is huge number. So India's organic food market is expected to increase by 3 times. So that is what we are expecting. So again, when we think about to happen all these things, what we are considering to have a food processing industry into a much more formalized and it's much more grower phase, we need to have a policy decisions over there. So again, the major highlights of the national food processing policies are like a single window clearance system is there, has been got generated. Then it promotes the food processing clusters. It is strengthening the agriculture marketing infrastructure. It is facilitating the land allotment, like as we have seen in case of cashew land allotment. Then it promotes mega food parks and food parks. It supports development of logistic infrastructure. It compliances with the food safety regulatory requirements, and it supports to the business units having established backward integration. So in case of food businesses, we need to think about the backward and forward linkages also, which will be supporting the growth of a particular food business. Then again, the objectives of this policy are to reduce the waste, to increase value addition, to ensure better price for farmers, and ensure availability of quality. So again, these are all the points what we have already covered in the first slide. So when we think about these things to happen, the task what we are considering has to be inclusive. It is not a single organization task. So there are a lot of organizations who are exclusively working for food related aspects. So when we think about the policy formations in terms of food processing industry, it will be dealing with Ministry of Food Processing Industry only. Again, in case of food safety, we have Food Safety Standard Authority of India and EIC. And again, in case of promotion and development, we have APIDA, we have FIXI, we have AMPEDA, we have CII, we have specific boards for specific commodities like Dairy Development Board, like Tea Board, Spice Board, like that. So they will be putting their inputs for promotion and development of the area or the sector. Then we have teaching, research and extension consultancy organizations like CFTRI. Then we have NIFTIM Tanjavur and NIFTIM Kundli. Then we have domain specific institute also, like for millets we have IIMR. Like that we have for dairy like NDRI. So these all organizations are working at their best for developing newer technologies. They are working hard for having a research in the field of particular sector, making a new product development to come into picture and providing us an advanced technology for reducing the wastage of those agricultural commodities. Again, we have an associations of industries and food scientists which are supporting all these activities at their level. So we have All India Food Processors Association and we have AFSTI, that is Association of Food Scientists and Technologists of India. So these all organizations, they are holding some gatherings or maybe some exhibitions, maybe some conferences and seminars where the knowledge will get shared and eventually it is benefiting the food processing industry. So what are the scopes and opportunity? The development achieved in the horticulture sector is indicative of the fact that there is growing demand of horticultural produce. The past experiences have been rewarding for enhanced output of investment. Then the availability of timely, robust information in this sector will certainly improve the socio-economic conditions of Indian citizens by providing self-reliance, beside environmental protection. And production and marketing of plantation crops must well into production aspects, marketing aspects, processing and manufacturing aspects. There is a tremendous production of plantation crops or maybe all the commodities. We have already covered that point. To avoid the post-harvest losses and to increase substantial returns to the processors for off-season consumption that we have discussed in terms of cross diversification and maybe the seasonality factor. Then availability of cheap labor, government subsidy for cold storage and processing unit, convenience of roads in case of marketing and transportation, availability of cans, bottles and other equipments at a cheap rate is also a scope and opportunity for food processing industry. So again, we have different government initiatives to promote the Indian food processing industries. We have agri-export policy, we have development of nationwide logistic and infrastructure policy. Then we have establishment of district level food hubs, expansion of mega food parks, production linked incentive scheme for food processing industry, that is PLI SFPI. Then PMFME scheme, for which we are working then Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sampada Yojana, PMKSY, then we have PMEGP also, then we have Agricultural Infrastructure Fund, then we have National Agricultural Marketing, that is ENAM facility. So these are all the facilities what are coming into a picture to boost and promote the Indian food processing industry. So this is all from my side. Thank you all for your patience. Over to you, Priya.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, there are some questions and doubts participants have. First question is, every time we have issues with tomato and onion, etc., what are your views and suggestions?
See, I already mentioned like we need to now think about crop diversification. See, if you are relying on a particular commodity, the problem is going to happen in a near future only. Like the issue is happening year around. Like every year we are seeing this onion and tomato issue, but we are not making the farmers aware about why the issue is happening, how they can tackle this particular situation of price fluctuation, how they can get diverted to a particular commodity. That is what we need to make aware of. So if you are just making the farmers to consider the other options also which are being get, and anyhow for this we need to formalize first the sector of food processing, which will be making the possibilities of other commodities also to come into a huge utilization, and then only anyhow the farmers will be getting diverted towards the commodity. So if the farmers gets diverted, at least a part of farmers gets diverted to a particular commodity, I'm sure this issue is going to be get rectified in due course of years.
So one more question. Can you share the link details of pyramid that you discussed?
Yeah, I'll share the link with you. Anyhow, if you just go on the Google and just click on T4F, you will find it. I'll just do it in couple of minutes. Just give me 2 minutes.
One more question.
Yes.
That whether recent data on production is not available as you showing the data of 2014 as reference.
Yeah, few of the data what I have presented is old one only, because the data collection is another factor. Like I already told you, you have to go for updated data. So you can just log into the APEDA website. You can just go with the Ministry of Food Processing website also, or you can just find out some annual reports of this organization where you will be able to find the updated data over there.
So one more question. Even there is a scarcity of tomato and onion, how diversification will help?
I didn't got the question. Can you repeat it?
Even there is a scarcity of tomato and onion, how diversification help?
What I'm getting out of this question is like they are considering tomato as the production of tomato is having scarcity.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we need to just go to the production statistics. Like there is no at all scarcity for the tomato in terms of production. The usability of tomato is only the problem. The farmers, if they don't get any particular price for their commodity, they will not sell it and they will throw it literally. You might have experienced this scenario in some news also. So the proper utilization is only the problem. So if that's why I told you, like what we are making the use of is only a matter of concern. The intended use has to be proper only.
So one more question, which is the best processing method for custard apple?
See, that part will be get dealt with the domain expert. So I can't help you in this particular scenario. It will be get covered in the domain classes. The recent technologies which are there for the custard apple. Like we face a lot of trouble in extracting the pulp. That is the most important situation. Again, the pulp becomes black during the course of its processing. So what are the recent developments which are there in case of this particular fruit? You will be able to get it under domain training, or when you're going to head up into a domain sector.
That's all, sir. Sir, please share the link so that
Yes,
participants can
I'm
register.
doing it in another minute.
Participants, this master training for 4 days, that 4 days is a common topics. So please understand there is no specific domain. Specific domains training started from 9th of February. Participants, if you have any questions, sir is here to clarify your doubts. You can write in the chat box.
Priya, I'm not getting the option of chat box over here. I'll do one thing. I'll share it with you in the WhatsApp. Can you just paste it in the chat box?
Yeah, sure. Yes, sir. Sir, participants, the link is in the chat box. You can check the link.